I think we lost you there, Chief.
What?
I thought he was playing a YouTube video in the background or something.
Yeah, so that.
Your voice came through all like robotic and distorted.
Oh, shit.
I thought it was fucking Craig again. Craig, is that you?
Yeah, you sound like Craig. Is that you, John?
Shut him down, he's got
disconnect.
sentience.
Yeah, I think it's John.
Is Craig trying to talk through Jono?
It's taken over him.
Who's become sentient?
Too much of the smoke got into the CPU and it made him sentient.
Hey, boy.
You back yet, mate? Still on mute.
Is
I think
this
he's
work?
fucking died.
Fucking dead yet? What was that, mate? I think we heard you.
Can you hear me?
We can, yeah.
You're back now.
I was going to say, I think it's this chronic voice.
You're
Fucking
released from Craig.
dip me into the Matrix or some shit.
You've been released from Craig's curse.
Fucking Andrew Tate
You
was
got
on
away
something.
from the
Matrix
clutches of
again,
Craig. I might draw like a little robot in the corner with the name Craig drawn on it. It has a microphone sticking out, and that's what's recording us.
Yeah.
It could be our little critter.
Yeah, little guy.
Everyone's got to have a little guy.
A little Craig.
Yeah. It's funny when I hear Craig, I just think of fucking Ice Cube's character from Friday.
What?
His name was Craig, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Pretty sure, yeah.
I haven't seen that film in a long time.
Oh, it's been a few years. It's so good though.
Yeah, a bit of a classic, eh?
Bit of a classic. How's that fucking vacuum bong? Fucking hell. Well, it wasn't even a vacuum bong. They just straight up smoked through the vacuum as it was.
Crazy.
All right, mates. I feel like I'm in a room with some experienced people and I want to pitch you something.
Go on.
Dabs are kind of terrible in that you sit there with a torch and you heat up a piece of glass or quartz or titanium or ceramic. You glop your material on it, and some of it always gets wasted. And the next time you heat it up, some of it gets burnt unless you clean it off. And that's like the best way we do it. A lot of people are walking around with carts. Literally, the thing that heats it up is a wire mesh that you're breathing through. And you do get particles and metal and stuff in your lungs from it. It's not like that's a huge deal. You know, your alveolar macrophages take care of like millions of those things every day, but you're still breathing through a hot metal mesh that's breaking down. And that, like, long term isn't good for you, especially if it's something a lot of people are going to be doing. So George
Good for
Mate's
your
been working
cholesterol.
on heavy metals.
Yeah.
Are we
Good. I mean, both.
I'm missing a little uranium in my diet? Not glowing like I used to.
Yeah, skin's not glowing as much.
I used to have a
Man.
dab rig, but it got too expensive, and I just much preferred having a joint.
I
never
can't
actually had
handle
a dab.
joints. Really?
No, never.
Wait, what are we on about? I think I was thinking of something else.
Is there another version of dabs that you know about?
I don't know what a dab is.
Oh,
You don't know what a
When-
dab is.
It's when you
Oh,
put your
here,
arms
let
up to one side and dip your head down.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh, I know that.
Jono, mate. All right.
It's when you smoke concentrate cannabis like resin or rosin through
Oh, I ain't
a
done that.
glass pipe. So it's like a bong, but instead of having a pipe on it, there you go. This man's going to show
Hey,
you.
mates.
Yeah.
All right. Let me figure this the fuck out. Camera's new. This might be new to you, Chief. This
I
is
can't
new around
see it
here.
yet.
No.
What's that?
They are selling concentrate in a tube that you twist it and like a little dose indicator comes up. You push it and that much comes out the plunger.
Oh, mad.
So like you can get your actual milligram. It's really thin stuff though. It's kind of weak. But I wanted to try it because, like, you know, new format.
Yeah, a friend of mine had something sort of similar because he used to make like vape cartridges, the 710 thread attachment ones. So he had like a machine, put it online somewhere. It's probably already patented.
The best I've come up with, I make like bowl holders and stuff.
Oh, nice, man.
Yeah, there's a smoke shop
Yeah.
that opened down the street. I'm trying to be the one to supply their parts.
Yeah, do it, man.
But anyway, this is like you take the pure THC, divide it off the plant. You can squeeze the plant. You can go through some chemical extract. Usually you distill it, decarb it, and then remix it into like a sugar sheets of shatter, if you've ever heard of that. And then it's near pure THC, you know, like 50 to 99%. There's even crystals that are basically pure.
Yeah, different types of extraction, isn't there?
Yeah.
I prefer dry sift extractions myself, or ice water.
Yeah, I've
I
heard
like
it's been
them.
really good.
They're probably better, but around here, everything produced is produced by medical facilities, and they have to do it in mass. So they're using, you know, supercritical CO2, butane extractions.
That was going to be my next question. Was going to be, do they use butane in a commercial setting?
Yeah. Yep. That's the only one that scales up, really.
Wow.
I mean, the hardware they do it on is no bigger than like, you know, a couple of fridges next to each other, and they'll process like 100 liters of bud at a time.
Jesus.
But that's small in comparison to the demand.
That's a lot of syrup on my pancakes.
I'm going to mute it because this thing's probably going to be loud as fuck. But basically, you heat up the surface, you put the concentrate on it, and it straight vaporizes it. You're not actually combusting anything, smoking it. And personally, I'm a wimp. I can't really smoke that much, so I do dabs.
Fair enough.
It looks like shit. I don't know if any of you have dabbed enough. I have tried so many different nail designs. I hate this current one.
I only had one nail when I had a dab rig. I used to use isopropyl alcohol every time to clean it.
Yeah, it looks pretty black, doesn't it?
Yeah, or you can straight just heat it up to get rid of it. That was the other method of doing it. You literally just hold the blowtorch on it, and eventually it'll all disappear and evaporate.
Yeah.
Yeah, just cook it off.
Is it auto adjusting because it was noisy? Oh, cool.
It was.
So this one, you can't clean in between because it's got two inner chambers that are stacked into each other. You have to wait for this thing to cool down and disassemble it somewhere.
Yeah, that wasn't much smoke at all.
Do the twiddly thing.
It doesn't work. Dude, that's just the cap. That's the cap that holds this center
Yeah, I see.
tube in, and that's supposed to rotate, and it just never has before.
My one had the thing with it.
We had a couple, like the 3 pearl design ones that worked way better, but they all broke.
Yeah, the pearl ones are cool. I never had pearls for them.
Yeah, I've not done any of this shit. I'm like a man of the streets. I don't get fancy stuff.
It just got too expensive for me, man. I don't know what the prices are like where you are, but in England, the prices for it is so expensive. It's usually, if you want to get like really good concentrate to dab, like shatter or something like that, you're probably looking at
I think it's more I just don't know where to get that stuff.
like 70, 80 pounds a gram for good solventless. Oh,
How
excuse
much?
me.
I've only just found the guy to sell me weed, so
70 to 80 pound for a gram.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't pay that either. No, it's more like 30.
nah.
That's for really good like solventless extraction. Sometimes it can be over £100 for a gram.
Wow.
It's crazy expensive.
Oh, sorry.
The cheapest sort of live resin that I used to get was, I think, £40-50 a gram. But that's low quality.
Yeah, medical, it's like 30, 50.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, it's cheap because they're growing millions of pounds of it and running it through gigantic machines. You know, of course it gets cheaper.
Well, yeah, true. That's very true. I like hash rosin myself.
See, I haven't had any of the fun street experiences because, like, the U.S. street drug market is kind of fucked right now.
Yeah, well, what you were saying, George, about the... Oh, sorry. Oh. Yeah, about the dabs being shit. Yeah, well, that's the main reason why I haven't really tried it. Like, I don't know, it doesn't seem that appealing to me personally. And ideally speaking, if it was like Canada here, where I could just go down the street to the fucking service station and pop in $100 note into the vending machine and get out some brownies, that'd be all I'd do. Like, I don't even enjoy smoking really, because fucking you cough up the black tar and shit. Fucking hate that. And when I smoke too much, I end up getting like sore lungs and shit. So it's not really ideal. If I could fucking just have edibles all the time, I would, but too hard to get really here at the moment.
Yeah, you can't even sell them for the medical program here. You're allowed to make them yourself, but nobody's good enough at that for it to be consistent.
A lot
I
of
mean,
us in New York, you can just buy brownies and edibles and stuff that are typically made in places like California, and then they find their way to New York somehow.
Gee, that's a long way to travel.
For food, it's really not. And the only thing stopping it from being more common is the fact that cannabis is still Schedule 1. If they do Schedule 3, one advantage is licensed businesses can transport it over state lines, and that would solve so many problems.
Yeah.
A lot of it comes here as well to the UK.
Imagine doing all of that above board for once.
Oh, I wish that would come to the UK.
Is that
Well, the UK,
known?
weirdly, is like it's one of the largest producers of medical cannabis in the world. It's just that we don't allow it. It's still a controlled substance.
We
But
export
the pharmaceutical industry grows it like crazy.
80% is the exact figure, I think.
That's
Jesus,
mental.
really?
Yeah. Yeah, our government says publicly to us that cannabis holds no medicinal value.
Yeah, and they stripped Professor David Nutt down when he was trying to sort of defend it or even explore the experimentation to see if there was any medical value to it. But interestingly enough, from a historical stoner perspective, I guess, it was Queen Elizabeth I who mandated a law to say that if you had land over a certain size, you had to grow hemp on it because it was being used to make the sails and the rope for the expanding navy and exploration efforts at the time. Shakespeare had cannabis growing in his garden for that exact reason, and they reckon that that's what sort of might have inspired a lot of what he was writing about, was the fact that he had tons of weed growing in his garden.
That was actually still a law up until fairly recently. I think it was the late 1900s that it was eventually changed.
Wow, that's
or maybe earliest. It might have been around World War II sort of time, the 40s. Yeah, somewhere in that time period, mid late 1900s, it was then made illegal to grow. But yeah, I think it was one of those weird laws in England that was still written down but not actually enforced.
Yeah, like killing a Scotsman on a Sunday with a longbow or some shit.
Yeah, by law, legally now, we still should be doing, I think it's 4 to 6 hours of archery practice per day.
Yeah, and I think when they look back at the skeletons of like the old archers back then that used to use the full-length longbows, they literally had different skeletal structures than we do today. Like they could pull back ridiculous poundages on their bows, 120 pound on a bow with one arm, and they all had like these massive like tree trunk fucking right arms.
They mentioned like the Huns, their hips were shaped very differently because they spent every moment in the saddle, even from when they were born, and that they were, twice as at home on the back of a horse as they were walking. Like people have adapted so hard to the way they live their lives that they're physically incapable of doing anything else.
Where were the Huns from again?
Eventually, yes, but Mongolia, there's a plain of desolate steppes, which hosts basically grass and goats, and then birthed a lot of peoples who really wanted to leave that area. I think it's Genghis Khan. I'm not good at the language correct pronunciation because the Western is Genghis, but I know that's not right.
Yeah. I was going to say Genghis, but I didn't think that was right.
Yeah, I also was going to say Genghis.
It's Cengiz.
Thank you.
That's right.
For some reason, I knew that if anyone in here would know that, it would be you.
My pronunciation on Eastern languages is like I'm pretty on point because I've been learning Chinese a lot recently. So
Oh,
that's the only reason I'll chime in on that.
throat singing is cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's strange how well, actually, not that strange, I guess, how you find throat singing in Mongolia, but then you also find it in like far north high Arctic cultures as well. Like there's such a huge geographic distance between them, yet that sort of culture, a very unique aspect of culture, is shared between the two.
Well, it's much more in touch with wildlife and nature, isn't it? I suppose
Mm.
because they're in a much more desolate area, there's less social communication, more just being in contact with your environment. Maybe there's a guy who lives in Mongolia that I used to watch who does throat singing called Batsurik, and he's fucking cool. It's nuts. Just the vocal range that they can do with their voice is ridiculous.
I don't know if there's any grounds for it, but I'm hearing a lot of throat singing coming out in this sort of like new neo sort of folk music, especially when they're trying to emulate North or Viking music. They're using a lot of throat singing. I don't think there's any historical evidence to suggest they did that.
I don't think I've seen that.
Sounds good though.
Yeah, I tried learning to do it once. It didn't go extremely well.
I can kind of do it because my voice is very deep, but it hurts.
Yeah, I can hold like one low note for about 3 or 4 seconds, and then it all just goes wrong. You've got to do it in like the perfect position of your throat, otherwise it like actually damages your vocal cords.
Yeah.
You don't do the noise in your vocal cords. I think you do it a bit lower in your throat. You're not making the noise where you think you would make it in your mouth. You're supposed to make it further down your neck. If that makes any sense. It's weird.
Yeah.
The only thing that sort of like really resonates to that is playing the didgeridoo and how like circular breathing works and how you kind of start breathing in unexpected ways. Like the noise is being made by the muscles of your cheek constricting, not necessarily what you're doing in your throat with your vocal cords or anything going on there.
Yeah, I think a lot of those
Something I
sort of.
really want to learn.
I've got one in my house, I think, somewhere.
Give it a go. Even if you get like a drain pipe or something, you just sort of like manage to cap off the end a little bit. You can do it on pretty much anything. It's the circular breathing that I think is the most valuable. It forces you to be so present to get it right. And then once you do it and you start like, getting good at it, you almost go into a bit of a flow state. It's really cathartic.
You give me private lessons if I find my one.
As long as we don't call them private lessons, yeah. But actually, to that point, there was a serious reason why I picked up the didgeridoo again, was that I got Bell's palsy at one point and I lost sort of use out of the left side of my face. And I met a guy who was busking. He was playing didgeridoo on the London Underground. And anyway, a CD that he was selling, like what buskers sell, like tapes or whatever. But back then it was CDs. So I bought one and it had his contact details on there, so like an email. So anyway, I listened to it, a couple of months later. I sent him an email, said, it's actually really good. I've bought a didgeridoo as well, started to learn it. And it helped me rehabilitate the muscles in the left side of my face because obviously you need to use both sides to create a perfect seal around, inside the didgeridoo mouth.
Oh, wow.
That's
But
really
yeah,
cool.
it was really, really useful and helpful to sort of like have that therapeutic aspect to it, I guess.
Oh, fair play. That's very cool. That's very interesting. I could do that for you. How do you effectively clean the inside of a didgeridoo that's been stored in a dusty?
You play it and it blows the dust out.
Stick the nozzle of a vacuum cleaner in the end of it and then get like a feather duster or whatever, and then put it down the other end of it, and then just sort of like go back and forth to just remove any dust or anything. But thankfully, you're not going to be breathing anything in through the didgeridoo. You're going to be putting it out.
Yeah. I thought I'd better ask because my idea would have been running water through it, and I assumed that it wouldn't be good to run water through it.
Yeah,
you
no,
put a load of soap in your mouth and you just play the didgeridoo, and then you're like, if you just munch up a bar of soap in your mouth and then just play it.
there's these things I want to get. They're didgeridoos, but they're like box shaped. They're like really small in comparison to a didgeridoo, and actually sound pretty good as well. So I'll buy one and I'll let you know how I get on with it. But they look fucking super cool. I really think that they might be a better way to get introduced to a didgeridoo without buying a full fucking size didgeridoo.
Anyway, lads, I think I might head out now because I got work tomorrow.
Yeah, mates, we've done fantastic.